Right, hi guys, I am here. And just yet, so let's just see if we can quickly have a little bit of news. Interesting. Gold spot's slightly lower today. It's going to check around the grounds at some of these barometers here. We see the S&P yesterday did start to break down. Jerome Powell, not particularly dovish. I listened into his speech last night. Not particularly dovish, I have to say. There was some elements, I suppose, but generally speaking, actually still giving a little bit of a cautious stance on those rates, on that rate decision. It's going to be a rate cut, but so S&P very slightly very slightly lower, but really on a trend line. We'll just have a quick check on what that looks like on the hour, on the daily. Not really broken down, so still a chance, decent retracement, and maybe another pop to the upside on the S&P. Nothing really that clear there technically. Nothing that clear when it comes down to any fundamental reason that the market would push to the downside. Gold did ease off quite significantly, and it has continued to do so. I was looking at gold, and because it popped forward, I took my eye off it. I was looking for a little bit of downside after the meeting because I didn't. Again, I didn't think he was particularly dovish. We'll check around the grounds at all things dollar and see what it suggests. Yeah, 25. I guess there probably was an opportunity here with gold. Decent move as well. I'm not sure if there was a setup. Right, with no Jeff, it's not a problem. I'm just going to put some news on in the background, and I will fill you in if anything comes up here. Well, this could be quite telling, the fact that gold is pushing down. Let's just see what other. We do have the G20. Hand down, dollar up against the yen. Again. Wow. Yeah, so all these are really suggesting that there could be some downside. Looks like euro. Interested to find Jeff's opinion on this one when he gets in, but euro looks like that could be breaking down as well. Looks like there's a little pattern there. Now the Aussie dollar is moving higher, so I have to know what we're to read from that. Dollar CAD, fairly stable. Right, I'm sorry. I'm just listening to the news here. Oh, just hearing that Donald Trump might be suspending tariffs. Hmm. Wow. I'm going to get this in one moment. Right, it's going to be about opinion now. Do you know the interesting thing here is that
What's interesting, mate?
just I've got just in the background. I've got some news. I'm just listening into Donald
Okay.
and Xi Jinping. They've got the G20 this weekend, and he is talking about suspending tariffs on the Chinese. So
Can we
that,
hear it or not?
and I don't think so. I mean, I don't know how to. I wouldn't know how to play my computer
Right.
through here anyway, but I'm not sure whether YouTube would ban us.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
There'd be military on our doorstep with guns.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, so it's really about the G20 when it comes down to movements. Last night we had Jerome Powell speaking in an interview, and he didn't really say anything that spectacular. I have to say, mate, it was sort of it was fairly. I mean, it just wasn't as dovish, I think, as the market probably wanted. There was a little bit of push down, during the speech and just towards the end of the speech, but it didn't last very long before it popped back up. Before we have actually popped back up again. So I think we might be meandering a little bit, and G20 is. We'll know on Monday what the kind of outcome of the G20 is, and I wonder whether we're just not looking for any news for the next day or not, or whether people start to move on G20 on Friday instead, in anticipation of what could happen. But
Yeah,
I
look,
wonder.
the poor old pound's still suffering. It cannot raise itself out of the mire, unfortunately.
Yeah, well, I noticed that, and I was looking at to see the stronger dollar. It was stronger dollar against the against gold, and against the euro, and against the pound, and against the yen, but not actually against the Aussie, which I thought was quite interesting and fairly telling. But
Yeah, it blows me away, actually. I'm completely stunned by that.
yeah, it's an odd one, that isn't it? Well, maybe
Yep.
it's not an odd one. Maybe we just haven't got to the bottom of why. But maybe it could be down to G20. I mean, maybe Donald Trump kind of coming out and saying what he said could help things like the Aussie out. But I do think it's making it a little bit of a tricky trading environment in this area, and we might just be going through one of those phases where we just travel sideways for a period. That seems to be the
Well,
case with the FTSE.
yeah, it looks like the Aussie's going to break, though. It's looking mighty strong. I guess in many ways for me that's a good thing because I can't get short unless it does. So I guess in that regard that's okay, but it's not helping my setups at all so far this week. I was looking for a pound Aussie long that hasn't set up. Probably a good thing, but when I
Oh
analyse
yeah.
that chart, and I will in a little bit when you finish with the FTSE, you look at it the
Well, no,
other
let's
way.
have a look, mate. I mean, there's not
Okay.
too much with the FTSE right now, but let's have a look at what you've got.
Yeah, I think I said on Monday or maybe even yesterday that I can make cases both ways for a lot of these pairs. I don't know what show I was in when I said that, but I remember saying it, and that's very much the case with Pound Oz. We saw this trend line with some beautiful low bar. You could trade that bar, and you could trade it long, or you could trade it short. Either way, and guess what? Had you traded either way, you would have lost both ways, or either way, if you like. And now it proved to be a precursor as to what was to come. And if you got it upside down, we're coming off got a lower high, and we've got a lower high at the weekly pivot, having retested the weekly pivot. Beautiful reversal bar.
Yeah.
We can, but gee whiz, you have to survive a few to get to it. Into it. I'm still waiting for the false break going the other way. So yeah, a little bit frustrating. I was not expecting the Aussie to rally at all.
No, I mean, I wonder whether it is down to G20. Anything else out there?
Yeah, commodity prices are up, I suppose. I haven't really looked at those in the last few days, but that weighs heavily on the Aussie. So that's probably okay. China, trade wars situation is going. If there's anything favourable towards the China side, I think that's good for the Aussie, but I don't know that that's the case either. I really haven't been in front of anything. I've been really, really busy on the farm, and just not up to scratch with everything that's going on, mate, to be fair. So I'm guessing, absolutely guessing.
Yeah, it's a tricky one, isn't it? I'm quite tempted to take a long on here, actually. I have to with the FTSE. It's
yep.
It didn't seem that the reaction from yesterday doesn't seem all that negative. And I wonder whether I'm just going to check my level here. Yeah,
the one thing I can tell you for sure is the pound continues to disappoint. That and get really hard to catch.
Yeah. Well, with the pound disappointing, that should help the FTSE out somewhat. And I think that there could be. Yeah, I think I'm going to take on a hedge here. Because that will probably. I don't usually like to take the hedge until the opening, so maybe I should wait for that and risk missing it. Let me just double check some of these shorter term time frames. Problem is you can get a lot of fluctuations on the open. I think I might have to wait until the open. I may well miss this. I don't know whether I should wait. Let me see. That's a fairly decent solid bar there. Checking the hourly. Not that much room. There's not that much upside room. Yeah, I think I'll wait just a little while. I think it's a good idea. There's only 11 pips potentially before I've got a resistance line. So what I'm looking at is taking the long on and seeing if it gets back up to these highs here. But this is in the way now. Weekly pivot's in the way, but that's probably just about far and away enough for me not to be too concerned with that. That's 27 pips, but this one's about 10 pips away. You can't tell much from the hourly, but the 15 has just started to put in a higher low here. But I think it might be pertinent just to wait until the open and just be mindful that I'm looking for the long rather than just diving in now, because the price isn't too bad. I'd be surprised if we were to break straight down, but it could happen. So I think I'll wait and see if I can get a test down here. And if I come back down there, then I'll bounce it back up again. Sorry, mate. You continue.
You're right. It does seem to be in a little bit of no man's land there, I'd have to say.
It does. Yeah, it does. It's not very clear, is it?
No. All right. Well, let's have a look at some currency pairs, and I'm pretty much looking at for the first time this afternoon. I had a look this morning, of course, in the morning show and found a few things to ponder. But as I just said earlier, they appear to be going in the opposite direction to my bias. That's again not necessarily a bad thing because it can promote a decent price for us. We will start with the Aussie. Now, the Aussie, as I've said for the last couple of days, is at a really good place to trade, where we're at a confluence of resistance trend lines and a couple of pivots thrown in there just for good measure. Look, I'm still keen to trade this short, and that will remain the case for how long? Let's put a little ticking time bomb on this one. I guess this level here is paramount. And I think I said this on Monday. You know, you can see this getting to here, I guess. And if that's the case, that's still a place to short this for me. If it were, however, to climb above that red line and meet the trend line in this area, that probably is a little bit of a different story. I'll still, however, be waiting for a false break of the current trend line where we're sitting. In particular, if we consolidated here for a little bit, I'm on the daily chart, of course, so this will happen on a smaller time frame. We'll try the 4 hour. So we've got the break here. If we can consolidate at this level, then push back underneath the trend line, the daily pivot and the monthly pivot, and even test the support trend line, then pull back. Oh, that would be good. That's what I'll be looking for. So I guess really nothing's changed since yesterday on that score. That's exactly what I'll be looking for, playing a false break on the Aussie. I really would like to know what's driving this Aussie rally, however, beyond this point. I can count or account for this rally to here, but beyond there, I'm getting a little bit confused, I'll put it that way. So false break for the Aussie, that's what I'm waiting on. That can happen on any time frame down from 4 hour, so we'll keep our eye on those. The pounds, well, I was in 2 trades yesterday on the pound. The first one on the 4 hour chart, this one traded this bar, took profit here, was waiting to take profit at that little red dotted line, as you can see. That didn't happen, and the rest, of course, is history. Our trailing stop was hit, and out of that, slightly better than break-even trade. No chance to get back into the short if that was your want. But interestingly, where we are now is at another strong level that is twofold: the bottom of the range, as I see it, and also the weekly pivot. Our long-suffering trading patience is tested to the limits on this pound thing over the last, how long, I don't know. We've had mixed results. We're getting sometimes a little bit, sometimes giving back. It's really something I should just put in the don't trade drawer until when, I don't know when. The key thing, I suppose, is there's going to be a tumultuous move on this pair at some stage, and I guess that's what keeps me interested. But from my technical point of view, or the way I technically look at the markets, it sets up and then fails, at crucial, well, not so much crucial levels, I suppose, obvious levels when you think about it. It's going to resistance and pulling off it, as it did here. Went to a resistance level, pulled off it, and for a fair way. This may yet do the same, but guess what? We're at a support level. We've got, I'll call that a reversal situation. It's a double bottom at worst. This is a higher low. This may yet be a higher low. And if that is the case, then why wouldn't you be thinking this can go? What do I really think? I really think it has to be a good setup for me to want to trade it. That's what I really think. I'm thinking, what charts? I think we're okay. I was looking at Hangouts, or I don't know what I was looking at, but it looks like the online feed is okay. So I'm just hanging here, waiting for the pound to give me something. Had that been a reversal bar, I may well have looked at trading that long there, stop under here. It wasn't. It's clearly a spinning top, as you can see. And I'll just wait for something a little bit better than that, and hope, just hope, that it gives us something a little bit more than a TP1. That would be nice, if it sets up, of course. Now the euro is interesting. Well, the euro is always interesting, and I think I say that every time I go to the euro. But on this particular day, we find that we've had this big break. This is the weekly chart. Sorry, I meant to go to the daily. We find that we've had this big break 3 days ago, and we've topped out, or maybe we've topped out at the 114 level. That seems to be the case at the moment with this bearish engulfing bar. Oh, look, this again is an interesting one. The lines I've got on my chart suggest that we've got a few options here in terms of where we're going to bounce. I don't think I'd be willing to trade long at the moment, given where there's support here, there's support here, and they're the two levels that I'd be looking at to trade from if I was to be looking long. Do I want to do that? Do I have a long bias? Look, that's why I look at the chart and really have a good look at this. We've got a clear downtrend. Lower highs, lower lows, lower highs, lower lows, lower highs. Still on this basis, right? And we are at a resistance level. We've had support through here. We've had resistance through here. Resistance here, resistance here. And of course support through here. So yeah, why wouldn't I consider a short here is my question. And I think I would consider a short here, but just based on that candle is not enough for me. That again is the weekly chart. Maybe next week it looks interesting, but it's a good shape. So let's go through the time frames and see what we can find here. We've had a look at the daily. There's no trade there. We would like to see probably a pullback here, give us a lower high. The 4-hour chart, maybe we've got something there that we can look at, but alas, no trade lines. And if there's no trade lines, there's no trades. I can't put a line up through there. My nearest trade line is going to be in this area here, so it's just way too remote for me. So no man's land again for the euro. I'll have to wait on the 30-minute charts now to give me some indication as to what might happen next. So we put a couple of lines on the chart, one here and one here. That gives us a couple of confidence areas. This one not so great. It's not a great support level, but the resistance level is good. Daily pivot and trade line. We've got an untested daily pivot here. So my immediate thought process is, let's get to the daily pivot. Let's break it. Let's consolidate here, get back underneath it, retest the confluence area, and then look. So I'd be interested in that if it's set up that way. I don't think I'm interested in anything else right now. Maybe we could trade the daily pivot test with the option of leaving something open to for this to return to the bullish trend that it's got. That's an option. But again, this area here is the best area, or the second best area. This one's the best area. Trade long from, in my humble opinion. Let me, just for the fun of it, see what that looks like from a Fibbo perspective. Yeah, it's not real flash, is it? Yeah, I'll go with this one around about the 50% mark, but where we are currently, the 38.2.
Just taking a long on the FTSE, mate.
Okay. You want to get one of the shots?
Yeah, let me just quickly show you guys. So I've gone long here. on the FTSE. We're going to have a look at this level here. Hold on one moment. Sorry, I've got a call coming in from somebody who doesn't normally ring me at this time. So let me just double check what that's about.
Okay, I'll continue while Ash is doing that. And take the screen back. With any luck, you'll be able to see my screen to tick. So, yeah, look, the options are clear. We could trade to the daily pivot as a false break off here, but we need a bit of space before or between entry and daily pivot. So say we were to enter here.
Sorry, buddy, I am back. It was my brother. We're all going to we're all going to the Caribbean next week, so he's just ringing up to find out my flight details. Not as important as I thought it might be. So anyway, so I've taken a long on the FTSE. What's that, buddy?
I said, looks like I didn't get the screen. So
oh, okay, cool.
Ttr Uk, continue on.
Oh, you didn't get to see. Okay, so taking a long on the FTSE, just in this area here, you can see just there. I'm going to take it straight back down again, just there. Now the reason that I've done that is, and I really do not like trading before the opening bell, but it was starting to kind of like pop up a little bit too aggressively to not do that. And remember, you know, my longs are protective, so I will close off my long under the daily pivot if it starts to come down too aggressively as well. I'll close it off down there. The big problem I've got is this level here. It's really got to kind of take that area out, because the issue could be that if we could touch that line, come straight back down again, and I don't really want to be caught in a trade with you know, I hate trading breakouts, but sometimes you don't have a choice. This would have been the best bar to trade on. There's no doubt about that. But it was looking just a little bit too keen, and I'm just a bit, you know, I'm kind of really aware of the news that's kind of going on right now. You know, in fact, I should have waited by the looks of things. I'm really aware of the news that's going on right now. This G20 stuff and the fact that Donald Trump's kind of coming out and saying that that the tariffs may well be suspended on China, it doesn't really fill me with too much hope that this market is going to be coming down. You know, I need something to kind of go on. Bullard was out yesterday. Well, one thing that did happen yesterday was that there was another Fed member, the St. Louis Fed chair, Chair Bullard, who did come out and say that the rate cut would probably not be quite as aggressive as people hoped. And I thought that may pair some gains in the market, but that didn't really happen. So so yeah, I'm just a little bit concerned with that headline about suspended tariffs. Now, it may well end up being the wrong decision, and as I say, I'll come out of this market if it starts to break down really aggressively down here. I'm okay with that. But I think the hedge was probably wise initially anyway. Now, let's just check what's going to go on here. Okay, got a bounce. It's got a bounce there. I mean, one way or the other, this would have been tricky. I'll probably be buying up now anyway, so I'm probably a few pips early, just as a little bit of a safety check. Well, maybe there's not a whole bunch to see, mate. I thought maybe we'd really fly, but actually there's increased. Well, at least there's some increased liquidity. But it is just it's a safety trade. You know, that's all I've really got here. Just a quick safety trade. So the safety trade may well break down. But yeah, if anybody's entering this, it's still worth entering. You know, there's no two ways about that. You still could get a long here. You still got a higher low and a potential move back to the weekly pivot. with the stops at the lows. Let's just double check that. 11 pips. Yeah, so you could be looking at a 2-to-1 here on a little intraday trade here. So I think with the rejection, there has been a little rejection down here. That would, that should fill you with a little bit more confidence. That was a decent rejection of that lower line. So that would fill you with a little bit more confidence. This area is still going to be tricky, certainly for me. But let's see what gives here. I think the rule of waiting for the open should always stand me. You have to remind me of that.
Okay, I'll put an alarm next time.
Yeah, because I could have got a better price on that, couldn't I? It's your fault, Jeff.
Yeah, I
know. Still, we're not in too bad shape. As long as the market's going up, it doesn't really matter so much. But let's just wait and see. The thing is, this is again about sentiment, and I've got to be honest with you, mate. I'm finding it a little bit difficult to read. I listened into Bullard's speech yesterday, and Bullard effectively came out and said that if there is going to be a rate cut, then he probably wouldn't be looking to vote on a really aggressive rate cut. And then Jerome Powell came out and didn't really say a whole lot. He just said he was listening to the market, and whatever the data points were would effectively shape what the Fed is likely to do. Not, that's nothing really to go on. It's really this this headline about Trump suspending tariffs. And what concerns me, there's two things three things is the thing about the G20 meeting. Well, what tends to happen at these G20 meetings is not what we all think. So the first thing that we're kind of going in and thinking is that there's going to be no deal and it's going to be a waste of time. So Donald Trump could completely reverse that and all of a sudden have a deal. The second thing we're thinking is there is going to be a deal, and Donald Trump could reverse that and walk away, and they could almost have relations worse than ever. But the third thing that's going to happen, which I'm wondering whether this is probably the most likely, is that it just ends up being a bit of a damp squib, and where everybody's kind of like focused on the G20 being the standout date, the standout event in the diary. I wonder whether it's not actually going to be that at all, and we just kind of end up just getting nothing, nothing to really go on, nothing to really hang our hat on and grab onto. That's what I'm finding a little bit concerning, and that's why I'm finding these markets just a bit tricky to read. But the issue that I've got is that the technicals are kind of still shaping for some upside, and if I don't put the protective hedge on, then I could be run over because I'm just not getting my fundamental read and fundamental sentiment. It's just not clear. The sentiment is just not clear to me. So I'm having to trade on very, very, in some ways, kind of sketchy technical reasons as well. That if we kind of look at what I'm making my judgment on technically, then let me show you what I've got. Sorry to cut you off as well, mate. I know you're midway through something. But let me show you what I've got.
Talking about not trading a 7-pip candle, so that's all.
Okay, all right.
Going to, so all good.
Okay, so this is what we got. We got a daily chart which we really yesterday probably. It's pretty indecisive, the market breaks to the downside, and then we get this daily chart which is a little indecisive. I'm still kind of keen on the short. This is purely protective what I've done here. It's not really looking for a great deal of upside. I'm just protecting myself. But I'm still kind of keen on the short from what we got here. There is a breakdown of price, a spinning top, which doesn't really tell us a whole bunch, which is the first technical issue that I've got. The second one is the 4-hour chart. Now, the 4-hour chart has attempted to break down without any success. So that would suggest that we may well be going right back to the top of the pattern here, as this particular pattern doesn't really break down. Now, to the point that it's hard to find where the lower line is. Actually, it's not there at the minute. It's there, I suppose. So 4-hour chart not really giving us anything. In some respects, does this become a higher high? It doesn't take out the range, but it does take out the closing prices. But then we get this evening star here. Then we get the hold on the 4-hour on the hammer. Really, the hammer did create a price point that held. It comes down, it holds, and it looks like it's pushing back up again. The 1-hour chart, does this now look like a higher low? Well, yeah, it does, and that's where the problems really begin for looking for longs that I don't really want to be getting into. And then we got the 15-minute chart, which I think probably does start to indicate that there is some potential higher prices here. Um, and then a lack of sentiment direction. I just can't figure it. I can't figure it out at this stage, mate. So that's why I've made the decision that I have. In this scenario, the stops will be under the daily pivot. It's not like my longer term position where I'm not too worried about the stop placement. But with this one, I will definitely be coming out if I don't get the price action that I need, i.e., that we do actually start to move to the top end of this range, rather than sticking down here. If we don't move up to the weekly pivot, then I'll be closing this position on the daily pivot. So yeah, we're frozen in time at the minute, mate. It's just it's a difficult market to read, and what makes it even more difficult is when we get the opening near 10 minutes where price hasn't really moved very much. So it's just indicative of a market which doesn't really know, and when the market doesn't know, I don't know. So
Yep.
this is purely protective.
Yeah, look, fair call. I'm in a very similar boat to you. I'm thinking one thing and seeing completely different, and that really doesn't please me. Well, in some ways it does, because experience tells me if I do have a firm belief and the market continues to run away from that belief, it will come back to me at some stage, and that's where I've got to be on alert, because if I then walk away and say, oh, well, this is no good, it's, this is just a waste of time, um, I'm potentially going to get beaten up here. That's when it all starts to happen. So yeah, I've got to remain attentive here, even though everything seems to be going against me in terms of direction. I just need to be very, very vigilant here, and don't miss an opportunity, because if they come, they'll come very quickly, and they'll
Yeah,
reverse very quickly.
yeah.
So that's where I'm at as well. Do you want me to continue?
Yes, you go ahead, mate. I'm gonna just watch this a little bit. I've got to figure out the best way to protect it, because I'm gonna have to get stops at break
Yep.
even at some point.
All right, mate. You have a little think time, and I'll have a little tink time on the chart. See if we can actually work something out here in terms of tradability in the next little bit. And I want my chart to change. Change, you little Siegfried Frolly. That should work. Okay. Back to the euro. Not that that's the euro.
Oh yeah, I want to hear your opinion on the euro.
Yeah. I want to have a firm one as well. And I haven't got a firm one other than I see here a descending triangle. But I also see, and this is the little candle I was talking about before, I see an untested daily pivot here at a confluence area. That excites me. But I also see a genuine slingshot setup here to trade to the daily pivot. A couple of issues. Number one is the candle is very, very small. 7 pips is below my minimum for trading on a 30-minute chart. So I'm resisting the temptation to do that. Although I'd love this to pan out, because if we do get to here, and that will mean the trade would have been good, then we can look for the reverse to happen here. So we can look for a lower high, and the lower high, if it is a false break of this trend line, then looks really, really cool, and I could then trade it short. obvious target in the weekly pivot. I think that would be enough. I don't think I'd need to take any more out of the market than that. If I have a look at where I think the euro can be versus maybe should be, the daily chart doesn't really help me too much. I've got to go a little bit wider than that. And what I see here is this level, 116-ish. And I think that if the fire can be lit under the euro, and really you've got to ask the question, why would the fire be lit under the euro? Apart from this technical situation that we now have, where these two bull bars are absolutely dominating, they're very, very key to what's going on here. There are serious buyers here, and there are serious buyers wanting to take this higher. How high is the question? And there's one level dead ahead of us. It, of course, is the hole number 114. We've been there already, and we seem to be rejecting that at the moment. That's not unusual to have a retracement after a big, strong move like that. So that's the first thing in my mind, and that goes back to where I was before, retrace to the weekly pivot. And I think that's probably tradable, but everything needs to go our way, of course. We tried trading against the euro yesterday, and that didn't do us any good. So after that, look, mate, I can definitely see this area. To get to here would have to happen so fast. If it were to be priced in time, it would have to happen by seventh of the 7th. What's that? A week and a bit away. Not unthinkable, is it? Get back to the weekly pivot and then get up to there in 7 days or 9 days. Yeah, I can see that happening. Playing it is the key, of course. And as I said from the outset today, there appears to be one really good level. That is the weekly pivot. But it doesn't line up with the Fibbo if you're a Fibbo fan. But it certainly makes sense to trade off this level also. The breakout area, where's the breakout area is the question. That the breakout area is probably here. If we go back to that level, can we see it coming right back to there? Absolutely we can. Why wouldn't it? It's got nothing to stop it. It's not going to upset the cycle of higher highs and lows. So this could be a decent old retracement on this move. Now I've got 3 levels. I've got here, here, and here. Goodness gracious me. Should trading be this complicated? I don't think so. So I'm not going to guess at this, and I'm not going to say it can't go long at the moment either. But I wouldn't like to be trading it long right now. I want to see those deeper retracements, at least to here, maybe to here, maybe even to here. So I'm a short-term bear, mate. I'm not a medium-term bull, long-term bull till we get up to this level, but I'm a short-term bear. So on the 30-minute charts, I'll be looking to trade short. So if that means we get to here now and look for that false break of this resistance area, perfect. That's exactly what I'll be looking to do. Cable Aussie, this is one of the ones I was talking about, and as I said, I think in this morning show, I think yesterday afternoon, I'm not sure, I get lost what I say when, but this was one of those that was setting up as a could be this way, could be that way. And the story I told yesterday was we've got a double bottom, we've got a higher low, we've got another higher low, and we had another higher low at that point. And we were waiting on this one to get back above. We talked about we're thinking about trading this. And we said, no, we're going to wait for the break, hit the weekly pivot, pull back, and then we trade it long. But that had to happen in 2 candles, not one. When you see that candle there, you're entitled to think the other way and talk about prices come to a confluence area of resistance. Well, there actually wasn't at the time because this has created the confluence. But it had come to a strong resistance level in the monthly pivot, and it put in a lower high, and then it put in another lower high as a resistance bar on the, as a reversal bar on the weekly pivot. So you can totally see the bear trade here. I can see it clearly. Why didn't I trade it is the question, I suppose. At the time, where was I? God, no, well, probably in front of the charts. More than likely was. So, yeah, tough, really tough, because the short was being flagged, if you like, by this candle here, the low test. But I said that at the time. That was probably tradable, but didn't want to trade it in both directions. And as it turns out, did I say at the time I wanted? I was considering a long and a short. I can't remember if it was this cross or something else, to be fair. So I won't say that. But this was definitely a candle you could have traded in both directions from a slingshot point of view. And ultimately, had you done that, you would have been out had you traded it long, because you would have been triggered here and taken out here. You would have been out if you traded it short, because you would have been triggered here and taken out here. So there's the topsy-turvy nature, and it's exactly what I've been talking about. I can make a case for a long, can make a case for a short. What do you want to do? Toss a coin. I suppose that's the next thing to do if you really must get into the market. But waiting for the setups is the key. And I'm not sure how I missed that one. Maybe it was the wrong time of day, but it's very, very clear when you look at it backwards, as most things are. That was a very clear short to be had here, profits before here, and away you go. What do I do now, Ash? Look, I'm not giving up, not by any stretch, because I still think the Aussie's got potential to be weak. And why it's strong at the moment, we asked that question before.
So this is the Aussie. This is the one that we flagged, wasn't it? As the strong. Was this one of the stronger crosses?
It was one of the ones. Euro pound was the other, and I did trade Euro pound and got burnt. Well, not badly. I only put a 0.25% risk on it, but lost it. We'll get to that one in a minute. I can't see a trade here at the moment, to be fair, but I think I'll still be willing to trade this if it does set up long, after all. And as I said earlier, really what may be happening here is the market's being very kind to me, and it's going to give me a far better price than I got before. Untested daily pivot, I'll be looking for price to get back above here, test the daily pivot, pull back to the trade line, then trade it long. That's still on my mind. Aussie yen. Now, again, this is exactly the same scenario in a different standing on your head, I suppose. Clear retracement channel here for mine. Well, it's not crystal clear, to be fair, on this chart, but you can see where it's going and see the shape of it. I've got a resistance trade line coming across here. I was expecting, or wanting more than expecting, I suppose, price to do exactly as it's done. Hit this resistance area, pull back below the confluence area over here, give me a retest, and I'm short. There is a better entry than that if it were to set up. If we hit the top of this range and we can find a reason or a confluence area to trade short from here, that's most definitely the better way to go. And, pursuant to my bias short against the Aussie, this is going to be something that I'll be looking at very, very closely. Again, as I said before, if the market runs away from my ideas, that's the time I really need to focus, not give it up, because it's at that point where I may be proven right. And if I'm proven right at a far better price than I was thinking right, then that's happy days. That's hallelujah time. You get a really good price. So just because everything's running completely the opposite way I think it should be, that's not a bad thing. It's a good thing. So just wait for these setups if they are going to play out for me, and if they do, I'm going to get fairly good runs out of them. Euro Aussie, a little bit ambivalent about that one. I don't think I'm too fussed on trading it, to be fair. It may go into this range that we're potentially seeing form. Big bearish engulfing bar here. Yeah, I won't call that a lower high. It's not a pretty picture for me. I just don't take a fancy to that sort of price action. But if it does start to go into a rectangle, as it could be doing right now, then I will get sort of interested. I can go to the smaller time frames and see if that's already the case. Yeah, look, I'm not really seeing it. It's starting to look a little bit like a rectangle, but I don't think it's there yet. And I'll leave that one until it does get to that point. Euro pound, this is the one that really injured me yesterday. I thought this was a reasonable scenario. It's one of the first double crosses I've seen fail for a while. Wasn't a perfect double cross, but it was there. Thought I got my entry far enough below this mark to avoid this potential hit the low and go, but that wasn't the case, and they got me. The little buggers, the stop hunters got me, Ash. I think I wasn't far enough away. Anyway,
played you at your own game.
Yeah, absolutely right. Absolutely right. I snuck it down here knowing that there was going to be liquidity here, so I thought I was okay, but they chased me and they got me. From here, what do I do? Yeah, look. Again, it looks bullish, and you'd have to say that once we found the support level, that being the weekly pivot, we did take off. Maybe I have to put my entries 20 pips below the weekly pivot. I don't know. Yeah, but now we're taking on this high. Let me take a look at the daily chart and what that looks like.
When you're through, mate, we need to have a quick look at the news as well today.
Mate, sure. Yeah, look, it's very easy to be flippant about this, but when you have a good look at this chart, you know it's so strong a move. You really get to the point where you want to see some either strong consolidation or some pullback. That pullback looks to have been enough for the market at the moment, and it looks like it's going to go again. It's certainly having a crack right now. And there's a little bit of space to the 90 mark. There's how many pips to the highs here? Yeah, 70 odd pips. There's another trade in there if you want to take it. I can't trade long here, no way. But yeah, it's tough to call. Tough to call anything but long until we get a clear reversal pattern, and that could happen. Could happen now if we put in this this double top and then get a lower high. That will be the first indication that this can go. But yeah, it don't look like that at the moment. I've got to say, it really doesn't. Again, that's going completely against my bias, and eventually I'll be looking at a situation where I'm going to have to trade to my bias, and hopefully that will give me again a better price than I'm anticipating at the moment. I'll do a couple more. Aussie CAD. Aussie CAD again is one of those that's going completely in the opposite direction to my bias. Is there anything going in my bias direction? I don't think there is, to be fair.
Would that would the Kiwi rate decision have any bearing on the Aussie?
Oh, look, they do tend to travel together. I didn't read the RBNZ statement, but I think it was pretty much in line with what the RBA are thinking as well, as we'd anticipate. I read the headline, and the headline said no change, but we are in a state of interest rate cut scenarios, and that will likely be the next outcome. And I think probably the market's thinking, okay, well, it's August. I think August is the next one for the RBNZ. So, yeah, look, I don't think a non-cut in a Kiwi interest rate scenario is a reason that the Aussie can rally. No, I don't see that. But the Kiwi seems to be doing okay on the back of that. And again, looking to break the highs. this is I'm not sure this is to do with interest rate announcements because it's been going on. You know, maybe the market was expecting cuts, you know, in this area, and then we found out we're not going to get cuts. Maybe, I don't know. Again, I'm finding it very, very difficult to read the market as well because it keeps chopping and changing. One thing I can say about Aussie, was I talking about Aussie CAD? Yeah, I think so. Is it as it can go? It is looking very, very rangy here to me. That's the 4-hour chart. If I have a look at the hourly, I can probably start to peg it in, or we'll do that. Why not? And I think that's what's lacking with me at the moment. I haven't got anything that looks tradable in terms of ranges. This is a range of what? 25 pips. See this? How can you trade that? You know, how can you make money there? It's really, really tough. By the time you get into the market on a lower high here, that range is then reduced to 17 or 18 pips. And if you're lucky enough to get to the bottom on a risk of 10, 15, what's the point? There is no point. So yeah, that one's a tough one to trade. Kiwi CAD, I'm still keen on this one. Why? Because I think the Kiwi should be weak and the CAD should be strong. And of course, we're seeing exactly the opposite of that at the moment as this takes off again on the back of a break and retest of this trend line at a confluence area. So whilst, technically there's a reason to go long here off this scenario, it's just not what I think is going to happen. So that's why I'm out of the market, I guess, at the moment. It's not lining up with anything I'm sort of looking at. Quickly, Euro Yen. Euro Yen is always a favourite of mine on the 4-hour chart, not so much on the 30-minute chart. So the 4-hour chart is showing me that we have had, and again, this is probably clear enough to have traded that bar right there. You've got enough room for profit before the weekly pivots. You've got a bullish engulfing bar and a higher low. What more do you need? Where was I then? Probably asleep at that point, I must say. But I didn't look at that this morning. I should have. Maybe you got the monthly pivot to contend with, but I've got a funny feeling this is going to smash through here and go to the trend line. Euro Yen, I might be looking at that on the smaller time frames just for the sake of doing that. But it needs to pull back here a little bit. I'll put that in. It's already done it. And again, potential there, but yeah, not happening. Pound yen, look, again, going back to the pound, it's very, very tough to be thinking you can have confidence in this, in any pair that's got a pound in it at the moment. But when I look at this chart, I see double bottom and higher low. Can that be turned into some sort of bias at all? Yeah, it's getting messy again. You've got weekly pivot, daily pivot sandwiched together, and to trade through those is going to be a tough assignment. So, no, I don't think I'll go any further than that, mate. I think I'm pretty much in the land of hang about.
Yeah, and it is indicative, isn't it, of a the markets right now. The FTSE 100 has literally travelled nowhere. It's exactly where I entered, and it's got to be left on, but losing a little bit of patience with it in many respects. It's not really kind of showing us that there's any real decision to be made today. There's every chance it still drifts forward. I'll show you what I'm looking at here. We got really a market which is, this is the hourly chart, so it's not we haven't got a close as yet, but there's just no movement. For the first, when you think that this is the hourly chart, so this is the price opened just at the low end of this green candle, and we're pretty much in the same area. We just haven't gone anywhere. So
yeah,
that is where we are with the FTSE now. If we bring in just some of the market breadth as well, some of the information, market breadth really has continued to show fairly decent stability, but it hasn't really kind of set the world alight. We're currently at 59% of stocks in positive territory, but there's a real lack of conviction. We were at 70% at one point. We were down at 49% at another point. So the market breadth is effectively expressing the same as the charts. And what that says to me is that, yes, I still want to aim for the trend line, the weekly pivot, and this trend line. But if I get this, if I'm fortunate enough to get the market to drift up to this point, which is looking less and less likely at this stage, then I'm going to be closing. I'm not going to be hanging around. I'm not even going to put stops at break even and just use it purely for protection. I'll just see if I can take some profit out of this, because I just don't see how this market breaks positively in beyond this area. That this is starting to drag us near the highs, and I'll show you this this particular pattern on a wider frame here. That's going to take us pretty much back to the high end of the pattern, and I don't see why we would break the pattern. It's looking across the board. You've kind of looked across the board, and what the charts that you have analyzed are expressing is that there is a wait and see attitude, and I've got the same with the FTSE. We also consider this RSI. The RSI is just bobbling around down here, just telling us that there's a complete lack of conviction and a lack of momentum one way or the other. We have to stick with along at this stage, even if you're not protecting. You've got to assume that that we are still in long territory, because the market hasn't broken down, and while it's not breaking down, then it is still bullish after the major run. Let's check the news for the day as well, the potential data points. I'm just going to stick this back on here. Double check this again. 61%. You see, it's kind of meandering around about the 60% line, so we're not looking at the short.
Yep, fair enough too.
Oh, okay. Just us, is it, mate?
Apparently.
Oh, okay. Well, in that case, let's just finish up with this, because there's not really anything here, mate. There's not. We got some core durable goods orders.
Not a lot to talk about.
Not a lot to talk about. The news isn't particularly doesn't really contain many fireworks today by the looks of things. So I think we just drift around for the day and probably wait for G20, and tomorrow we got some final GDP numbers out of the United States, which might drive the market. But I think we'll probably just drift around, maybe continue to look for upside in the market anyway, and without anything hugely significant. And then we wait for tomorrow to see what the decision is going to be, whether people buy or they sell into the weekend, because I suspect by Monday there could be a gap in one direction, or well, I don't suspect that actually. My real suspicion is that we get a damp squib, but there is a chance that we get a gap one way or the other in the market if the trade wars end up being resolved, which they probably won't. Then the gap would be assumed to be to the upside. If it is more hard lining on both parties, then it will be a gap to the downside. If is what I would suspect would happen, they just don't really say anything, but they're mates and everything else, then we probably will be exactly where we left off. So let's see what happens tomorrow, mate. I know we're not in, but that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to check the markets tomorrow and see if there's any clearer.
Why aren't we in tomorrow?
Oh, we are in tomorrow. Jesus, it's only Wednesday. Oh, no wonder people are still buying. No wonder people are still buying. I thought we were in on I thought we were at Thursday, and I was thinking, why aren't people starting to position themselves for the G20? But of course, it's a bit early for positioning just yet, and that's probably why. So in that case,
there's a reason for everything.
There's a reason for everything. You're absolutely right. So that means that the G20 meetings start on Friday, and that's probably when we're starting to kind of get a little bit clearer direction. So yeah, let's check it out tomorrow then, mate. My apologies.
No worries.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll bid you bon bouche.
Yep.
And
happy days.
I'll see you in the morning, buddy.
All right, mate. Have a good one, and I hope that hard work you're doing eventually gets to an area where you can say, "All right, thank God I'm in free territory."
Oh, do you know, I'm off on holiday next week, and the last thing that I want is to be
Oh, you
taking.
don't want to take that with you? No.
Oh my God, no. Actually, that just a point on that. Yeah, so I'll be in next Monday and Tuesday, but not Wednesday and Thursday, or the following where Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday.
Yeah, I might take a break too, eh?
Yeah.
That week.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
We might have
as
a
we've
little.
agreed on it, we can tell everybody we're away for a couple of weeks, can't we?
Yeah, why not?
All right, buddy.
We'll
Well, in that
talk
case,
about that tomorrow.
we'll talk about it tomorrow. Yeah, sounds good. I'll see you tomorrow.
Right, mate. Happy days.
See you, dude.
Hooroo.